Because reading is what?
Fundamental.
Hey guys, welcome back to another episode of Do You Read BTS? I'm Lisa.
And I'm Delize. Welcome back, guys. So this week we read another story from Wattpad by your_Jagia91. We've read her before. We did a review and we actually interviewed her. She did the new neighbor story, the Namjoon story that we loved. So we're reading another one of her stories. This one's called Destined. It is a Jin story. So yeah, let's get into it.
Okay, the beginning of this story, it was the girl, because y'all know she ain't got no name. The girl, and she works at Big Hit as an assistant. She's not an assistant to Bang PD though.
No, she's an assistant to some other manager, but I don't know.
Somebody else. She's an assistant, but she made good money.
Mm-hmm.
She's an assistant, and but BTS is not BTS. She just works at Big Hit, the company or whatever. Yep. So she works at the company. She makes really good money. She has a nice apartment, and her best friend is Taeyoung. Taeyoung is involved with Yuki, so they are together in this story, which I think is so cute. I never just imagined them together.
Yeah, I agree.
They're so cute together, and you know, Yuki has that blonde hair like he always got. Every time I think about him, he got blonde hair.
Yep.
Which I don't know, because in that last concert, honey, in that black hair.
Girl, that was doing something for my life.
So, in this story, she works for, like I said, Big Hit. And this girl, she gets around, y'all. And she knows it. She do her thing. She jump from man to man and is not afraid and is not ashamed, okay? Mm-hmm. She don't have no man, but she just got these different little buddies, So she is involved with all these different guys, and she gets home one day, and the main guy, Spencer.
Yep, Spencer.
Spencer's sitting at the door, and he's like, let's hook up, let's link up, let's do it. And because that's what they did. They had no real conversation, no relationship. They just linked up, they had sex.
Right.
And so she was like, no, I don't really want to have sex with you like that. And he was like, why? She was like, I'm tired of having sex with you when I don't come. So she was like, the last 3 times we had sex, I didn't do nothing. So no, I'm done with you. I'm done with this conversation. So he pretty much was like, whatever, you're going to need me again. And he dipped out. And she was like, fine, whatever. So then, as it goes on, she goes back to work. And she...
Wait, before that, so she's like, she and Tay are hanging out. And Tay's talking about how they have to go pick up his brother from the airport because he's coming back to town and they ain't seen him in a long time or whatever. And she's just like, oh, okay, I'm gonna miss you, whatever, because they with each other all the time. It's always her, Yoongi, and Tay. They always together. And so they were gonna leave or whatever. So she's just like, okay, blah 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 blah. But yeah, go ahead.
So she goes to work that day and she is talking to her boss, and her boss is telling you, oh, by the way, you're gonna meet this guy, and he's going. What is he? The head of. What was your job gonna be?
I can't remember what his job was, but he was the head of something like that. Yeah,
it was like marketing or something, y'all.
Yeah,
but her job was to show him around, show him where his office was gonna be, and then the ins and out for the week. So she meets this guy. He walks in. Y'all, the way they describe him in this story is that blonde hair Jin. Now, if y'all know me, y'all know that I love Fire Era Jin.
Same. Just fine. Just fine. And then he had a suit. Yeah, he was dressed nice. He was looking statuesque and just good.
And he had that undercut. she sees him, she's like, oh my God, he is so fine. Like, she was just staring at him, looking at him, but she knew she had to get her job done. So that's what she did. She showed him around, showed him where his desk was, where his office was, and what he was supposed to do, and all the ins and outs of the company. And then, so after all that, it took a little time for them to do that. But then after all that, Jen was like asking her, I guess I was kind of getting to know each other, but not a lot.
Not a lot, yeah.
But a little bit, talking here and there, whatever. And he wanted to go to dinner. He was like, oh, have you ate today? You want to go out to dinner with me? And she was like, is this a date? In her head, she's thinking, is this supposed to be a date? Like, I cannot believe this is going on right now. And so he was like, yeah, let's just go have dinner or whatever. So they went to this nice Italian restaurant. She showed him, because he's new in town, he didn't know where to go. She showed him to an Italian restaurant. So they got their food and they ate and everything, and then go ahead.
So the whole thing about her meeting Jin was that he was like, she was in awe over him, which never happened. Like, she could be with men and just be like, it is what it is, but she was like struck by him. So she was kind of nervous and awkward when they was at dinner, but eventually she got comfortable. And so they had a good dinner, they talked, they got to know each other a little bit better, and he was kind of sort of flirting with her, and he was like, I think you're beautiful, and she's just like, oh my God, me? Like, stop it. So they were having like a good time or whatever, and their night ended. And the first thing homegirl do, she hit that phone and called Tay like, bitch, let me tell you about this man that I just met.
No, she texted him during dinner.
They were in dinner when, did he go to the bathroom when she was texting him?
She texted him while he was sitting right there, because remember when she looked up, he was staring at her?
That's right.
Uh-huh.
That's right. So she giving him the tea in about this guy. So Tay's like, who is this guy that she met, whatever. And she's just like, oh my gosh, like kind of gushed about him. So they finished it, they wrapped it up, whatever. So the next day.
No, Tay told her. Tay told her, if you like this guy the way you said, don't sleep with him.
Yeah, he did tell her that, because she was good for being like, all right, bet, I'm going to bounce on it and then call it a day.
Right.
So she was like, okay, whatever. So the next day when they invited her over to the house to meet his brothers.
Well, he had already told her during dinner that he was going to help his brother move, because his brother was moving. And
right.
So when she got home and she was like kind of talking back and forth to Tay, he was like, oh, you coming over, right? You gonna help me come over? Because I guess she knew that he was moving too.
Yeah.
And so she was like, oh no, I think she found out. He told her that he was moving here with Yugi, and she was like, well, wait a minute, this kind of coincidence that
she didn't know. She didn't know that was.
I thought she heard him say that, but she didn't put two and two together.
Yeah, maybe I don't think she put two and two together.
Mm-hmm. She didn't put two and two together until she got to his place.
To the house, yeah. So she
was looking good too, because they was having like a little party.
Yeah, because it was her, Yoongi, Tay, Jin, which we didn't know it was going to be Jin, and then Namjoon and Jimin. And I don't think Hobi and JK showed up for that.
Because they had prior engagements.
That's right. So they're all there, whatever. And I think everybody was in the room, and the girl was like looking around or whatever, seeing everybody again, because they all call her Nuna because she's older than everybody else.
And she was looking good too, girl.
And she was looking good, and they was like kind of like, okay, girl.
Mm-hmm. You came to party for real. We just moving in.
Right. And then so Jin walks in and starts talking, and then she's like, oh my gosh, it's you. And he's like, it's you. And then Tay's like, this is who he was talking about? This is the guy that she's telling you about? And so he was like, oh, she was telling you about me? And he's like, yeah, she said you were sexy, or you were a gentleman and all this other stuff. And so then she's like, Tay, like, shut up, bro. Like, stop talking about it. But then Namjoon was like, oh, or was it Yoongi that was like, oh, no, it's cool, because he was talking about you too. And so she was just like, oh my gosh. So they're all chilling in the living room or whatever. And Jin is the one that's cooking, because he's always the one that's cooking. and and he needs help in the kitchen, and so he's like, oh, can somebody help me? And so Jimin was about to get up, and then a girl was like, well, I'll come in there. They kind of like volunteered her, so she gets up and goes in the kitchen. Jin didn't really need no help. He just wanted to be alone with her so they could talk some more because he was feeling her.
And told her that.
And told her that. After they got past the kind of, oh, this is embarrassing, then they was like, no, like, dead ass though, like, I wanted to see you. Like, okay, go ahead.
Oh, so then I guess they were kind of just talking back and forth, kind of getting to know each other a little bit more, just like, well, you know, not like a lot, but a lot. And then I guess as the night went on, they just kind of was flirting back and forth with each other and all that good stuff. I don't remember what happened after that. I think they left. Wasn't she leaving?
She was leaving, and he walked with her.
She was leaving, and he asked to walk her home.
Because she lived like 15 minutes away walking, or 5 minutes or something like that.
Oh, but we forgot to mention that when they was in the office, when she first met him, he looked in her office and she had all these deck of cards.
Oh, yeah.
So she had all these different decks of cards, and he asked her why she had all these decks of cards, and she told him that her dad taught her all the tricks, and she knew every card game, so she collect decks of cards. So when they went out to the car, because he asked her to walk to the car with him first, so they went out to the car, and he pulled out a deck of cards that he had went to the grocery store and seen and got them for her, and she was just like, oh my God, like, you bought me something. And he was just like, oh, I guess nothing. But she was like, you don't even know me, and you bought me something like that to show how you care, and nobody ever done this for me before without asking for something in return, you know. And so, you know, she was just happy, and then I guess he was getting ready to walk her home. So they walked home and or whatever, and got to her apartment, and did she tell them to stay? They could stay?
Because I think it was that first night that stuff got popping, right?
Yeah. I mean, it didn't.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And so, so they got back to her, but he walked her to her apartment, and they just was talking back and forth, and she asked him to stay. And then, you know, as they got to talking, she just was like, you know, because in her head, she has really been around guys. Like been around, okay? And she told him, you know, I hope you don't feel no type of way about me, but I guess she ended up just telling him the truth. Okay, I got all these different men. I've been with this man, and this man. I have like 15 men ready to go.
We forgot to mention, I think it happened during this time. She was walking, because when she was leaving to go to the party, one of the other guys that she used to deal with ran up on her and was talking mess. And then when she was coming back home, I think the same guy, the original guy, was that this time? Spencer was talking mess.
Spencer came to the door. She had already told Jen, okay, this is what I went through, but I kind of don't want to go through it anymore. It's like leading to nothing. And then she was like surprised because he still wanted to talk to her.
Yeah, because she was just like, you're a really nice man. I don't understand why nobody would want to be, in her head, she's like, nobody would want to be with someone who's gotten around as much as I have. Like, really doubting her.
So she goes to the bathroom and she changes to some comfy clothes, and then she gives him Tay's clothes that's at her house. But then he didn't have nothing on but like the boxers and I guess shorts or whatever. So I was just picturing Jen. You know what I'm talking about with that back?
Yes, girl. That's exactly
if we
what
find that picture, we're gonna insert it too.
Yeah. Oh, we got to.
He got a good back, okay? So that's all she was looking at, is his back or whatever. And she heard a knock at the door, not a knock, a bamming at the door. He was beating down the block with that third door, okay? And so she goes to the door, and he goes to Jen wants to go to the door. He was like, oh, let me do it. Jen goes to the door, opened it up, and was like, he was like, can I help you? He was like, oh, he looking around like, oh, is what you call it here, or is the girl here? And she was like, yeah, she here, but she no longer needs your services because you were not using her. evidently she told you she ain't came in I don't know how long.
Mm-hmm.
So, and that she was dying for a release.
Right.
I was like, that girl is it that
Man, because she was getting it in like every week with like a couple times a day, couple times, like she was getting it in. So she was like, this is the longest she's gone without any type of release.
Right.
And so he felt like he could help her with that.
Right. So he gave her some pleasure without doing anything, but he did stuff.
Yeah.
And so they end up like going on all these days. He taking her around. He doing good here. And then Tay's like, you better not hurt my girl. I'm telling you right now, that's my best friend. I love her. She was there when you was not there. Do not hurt my girl. So he's taking her on a date, doing all this. And eventually over time, they get to a place where they are having sex.
Yeah, so they eventually end up having sex for real because she's like, all right, like we can do this. Because they've had a lot of intimate moments together where they're like just laying together or whatever, but not actually doing anything. And so she's like, all right, I'm ready to do it. So they end up having sex that first time. Girl.
It was the best she ever had.
Both of them was like, this is the best I've ever had. She was like, this is the best I ever had. Like,
Go ahead.
So they go into like backstories a little bit about like people he's dated because he hadn't talked about himself or whatever, and they kind of get closer as time goes along, and then they're starting to feel different things for one another. Homegirl didn't believe in love at all. Like when she saw Yoongi and Tae, she was like, that's cool or whatever, but I don't really get it. And but she kept having these feelings, but she didn't understand why. She ended up realizing that she did love Jin, so she told him that she loved him, and homeboy bounced. And they
like I literally texted was saying was like, Jin told her.
He did. Homeboy was like, deuces. He was out. Yeah. So homegirl was not doing well. Jin wasn't doing well. And Tay was like, what happened? Like, what's going on? What did you do to her? He's going off. He feels some type of way. So she ends up telling Tay the whole story. And then Tay and Jin end up getting into it a little bit. So Jin's like, he ends up showing up at the girl's house while Yoongi and Tae are there, and he's like, I just really need to talk to her. So they end up leaving, they talk or whatever. He explains what happened and why he ended up leaving and all this other stuff. So then they were cool. Everything was fine. They had a Halloween party. I'm skipping ahead, but they had a Halloween party. She was dressed, so Jin calls her Kitten, and he wanted her to call him Oppa when they were like having like relations or whatever. So she ended up dressing in a cat outfit and like a sexy cat outfit. And so she ends up going to the Halloween party or whatever, and they have a good time or whatever. And dang, what happened? Did they get it in at the party?
So she went to the party, and then they were like talking. She was so happy to see her because she was looking all good and everything. And then a guy was there. And he has the guy it was one guy that she was always with that she only hooked up with when she went to parties, okay, in the bathroom. Yeah. So he was like, oh, you here? Come on, let's go to the party. She was like, how you here anyway? And he was like, oh, Hobie had a friend that invited me here. So she was like, oh, no, I'm not fooling with you. You know, I got a man, blah, 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 blah. And whatever, and he went and stopped talking to her. He kept calling her a hoe, a slut, and all this stuff. So then Jen came up, popped him good in the face, all right. And then Tay came, and Tay was like, you need to leave. And then he started calling Tay the F word, which I'm not going to say.
Yeah, that was crazy. And then, so Jin was defending his brother honor and the girl honor because he was like,
so he cursed him again, okay?
Yep.
And Jin so he made him leave, and he was like, oh, if she look, before the boy left, he was like, oh, she take you to the bathroom, then you know you one of us then, right? So Jin, man, she does take him to the bathroom, but she take him to the bathroom to, you know, do the first aid kit on his knuckles and stuff, because he had already busted them everything. So she did that, and Jim was like mad at this time, and he was like, how many times we gonna have to do this? Because I just defended you the other day, now I gotta defend you again. How many times you just a slut anyway. No, what happened was she was like, she was like, are you mad at me? He was like, how can I be mad at you for being a slut in your pants? And then she like, really? Really? That's what you're going to say to me? For real? So then she dipped up and she left, and she went home crying. So when she went home crying, then here come Jen back to her door. Oh, I didn't mean it. I'm so sorry. Blah, blah, blah. So then they made up and had sex again. And then, Tay and them was like calling them, looking for them and all that because they was worried about them. Go ahead.
Yeah, so they that kind of just, they kind of kept going through the things of them kind of being together. All of that after the party was like good. They spent like a bunch of days together, and that was kind of that. And then like as time goes on, they're developing more feelings, and they end up going on this trip. Is that too far?
No, keep going, girl.
Okay, so they end up going on this trip, and it's a beautiful, amazing. They go to the springs. They got this like hotel. They like do all this stuff. It's really pretty. The time is great. Like they get it in a lot. All this good stuff. And on the way back, they get lost. So on the way back, he's like, you can just.
No, they weren't on their way back. They was on their way to another location, but he got lost.
Oh,
but
okay,
he felt like he was too much of a man to say that he was lost. So she was like, you know what, all I did is ask you, did you lose the charger? Did you bring the charger? And you didn't. And he was mad because he felt like she was on him the whole time. And she was like, you know what, pull up at the store. I'm just going to go get a charger. We're going to get this GPS. We're going to get going or whatever. So she got the charger, got the GPS, got in the car or whatever. And they was arguing. He was like, you know what, you remind me of my ex. She was like, oh,
she was real? Like, oh, bad.
For real? That's what you're going to say? I remind you of your ex that you talk so much junk about because she made you feel less than a man. I don't make you feel like a man. I do this and I do that or whatever. So they was arguing back and forth and he zoomed out, tried to back out, and somebody, bam, T-boned him.
Yep. So now he's okay. Homegirl is like out of it. So she in the hospital. She was in a coma for 5 days, 5 whole days. So then she finally wakes up. But during this time, he was like super frustrated with himself because he's like, this is all my fault, blah, blah, blah. So so we find out later that the reason he even got into the argument with old girl was because he had planned on proposing to her. But instead of just doing it, he felt some type of way and ended up getting into an argument with her. And then she ended up getting the accident. So he was like, wow, I really do love this girl. So he had this ring that he was going to propose with. So she ends up healing from she had to have surgery when she was in the hospital. She woke up, everything was fine. She healed, and she finally they were able to get it in. So,
but it was some time before they could get in.
No,
he didn't want to touch her for like a month.
Yeah, it was a while.
Just made him do it, and then they ended up having sex.
Yeah, and she had to, because she ended up staying with Yoongi and Tae, and because Jin also lived with Yoongi and Tae, so she ended up staying with them for a bit. And so he at one point asked her to move in, and so they ended up moving in together and all that good stuff. So one day they're like, it's her and Yoongi that's hanging out, and she's like sick as a dog, and he's like, girl, what's up? She's like, I don't know, I just been kind of feeling nauseous, blah, 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 blah. And he's like, okay, come sit down, talk to me real quick. So they go sit down, and he's like, girl, you need to go to the doctor. She's like, no, I just think it. He's like, no, you need to go to the doctor. And then it finally clicks, like, oh crap, you might be pregnant. So she was like, well, I shouldn't be pregnant because I had the IUD. Come to find out that when she had the surgery, they had to take the IUD out, and they didn't put it back in because she didn't ask for it to be put back in, but she didn't know that it wasn't even taken out. Homegirl was pregnant. So she's panicking a little bit about that, but she ends up, she's like, all right, well, I'm going to tell him whatever. So her and Jin end up having this like cute little night or whatever. And he's like, yeah, he said something. And she's like, yeah, we love you. And he's like, we love you. And he was just kind of looking like, what do you mean? And then he looks down and at her stomach, and he's like, we love you? And she's like, yeah. And he's like, we're having a baby? And she tells him that she's pregnant, whatever. So they have a good time, all that stuff. So now they're kind of going through the months of her being pregnant and all that stuff, and the cravings and all that good stuff. And then she eventually gives birth. We're going really fast, but she ends up giving birth, and they named the baby Taemin. And while the baby's like there, Yoongi's like, would you want one? To Tae. And Tae's like, oh my gosh, are you serious? He's like, yeah. He's like, not now, but like we'll get one of it. Guys, we're back again. We had some malfunctions with the recording, so now it may look a little different where I'm on the other side and Lisa's on the right now. Anyway, we're back. So where we left off was that it is now 2 years later. The girl has had the baby. The baby's name is Taemin, or it's a year later. And Tae and Yoongi now have a baby named Jackson. So they are now going to move out, or they were planning on moving out because they needed a nursery, all this other stuff. So this was what blew me. Not only did Jin and the girl move, Tae and Yoongi moved because Tae didn't want homegirl to live too far away from him because they live and they got this big old house. It sounded nice too, didn't it?
Yes, girl, but it was too big.
Too big from what it sounded like. I'm like, y'all got all that space? It's just three of
Yeah.
y'all.
Right.
So, yeah. So then, while they're there, while they're there, they're kind of all hanging out, dinner, whatever, playing with the babies, all that. And Jin decides he wants to finally do what he was going to do 2 years ago. Propose. So he has this long speech about how he's been in love with her and how he was going to propose, and this happened an accident and it never seemed like the right time and all sorts of stuff. And so he finally asked her to marry him, and she was like, yes, whatever. The ring that he gave her was a grandmother's ring. So now they flash forward again to another year or two later. It's the wedding day. So now they're getting ready for the wedding. They have everybody and their mama at this wedding because people, friends of friends of friends of friends, is inviting people to come to this wedding. So it's a bunch of people.
And everybody at the big hit company is there.
Everybody, yep. So they all go to this wedding. The wedding's beautiful. They have this amazing time. They have these amazing vows. Everything is cute. So then you flash forward, was it 17 years later?
Mm-hmm.
And now their son is 19 years old, and he's dating JK and Hobie's son, or is gonna ask JK and Hobie's son to be his boyfriend. And Jackson, which is Tae and Yoongi's son, is gonna be going along with one of his little girls because I guess he was out there living his best life too. So they all were going on a date all at once. So Taemin comes back after their date's over. First of all, real quick, when the kid was out, they had to get it in real quick.
Right. And was talking about it too. Oh, I ain't gotta be quiet. I know what that's about.
So they get it in while the kids at the date. Taemin comes home from the date and is just so happy, and they're like, "Oh, look at our son, he's in love." Blah 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 blah. So, yeah, that was pretty much it, right?
Yeah, they pretty much talked about. I guess when they were kind of just talking, Jen and the girl was talking, and they was just like, "Who knew that?" Somebody like me was going to end up with you, and then they was like, that's because we was destined.
And that's where the child story comes in. Yeah. Yep. So
how did you feel?
I really liked the story. It was so cute. It was so fluffy and there was a little bit of drama in it, but it was such a cute story. The thing that I really liked about this that I didn't mention to you earlier was the fact that Homegirl was out there living. She was getting in
with no apologies.
No apologies, no shame. She was like, this is what I do, whatever. You can like it, you can not. It is what it is. She was super honest about that, and I really appreciated that in the story. And then I like the fact that they fell in love with each other, and it was instant. There wasn't this, I don't know, because we read a lot of stories like that where the one person's like, I love them, and the other person's like, I don't know what love is, type of thing. There wasn't that battle. So I really like that about the story. How did you feel about it?
I loved it. However, I could not get with y'all know I love Jin Fire. I was telling D, I did not picture him as reading this story. I couldn't picture him with the blonde hair.
Yeah.
I just kept picturing him in the on video. But yeah, but I love the story. I thought it was so good. Not a lot of drama, like you said, but full of fluff, full of smut, and it was some good smut too. And I just liked it.
Yeah,
I loved it.
Yeah, always a good. We've read her stories before. We really enjoy how she writes, and I always get these warm feelings every time I read her stories because they're so cute. You know what I mean?
And I appreciate a good Jen story because, guys, you cannot find that many of them. It was so hard for us to find it, so we had to ask everybody in our little group on our Twitter. Yeah. And that's how we got the story, I think. So, Dee, do you know?
I don't remember who recommended it, though. I couldn't find who it was because we got a lot that day.
Okay.
But shout out to you. If you recommended it, shout out to you because we appreciate that. Yeah, kudos.
Thank you so much.
Yeah. So we're gonna be going back to the list because we have some of the stories we have Namjoon next. So yeah.
I can't wait.
Me either. So we'll get to that after we have another episode. And yeah, you guys can follow us on Twitter, Instagram, TikTok. You can email us at doyoureadbts@yahoo.com. For our YouTube channel, you guys can like, comment, and subscribe. And, we're going to do this as we always do. Yeah, so do all that, guys. Thanks for joining us. Bye.